Okay, so today we are diving deep into Machines of Loving Grace. It's a paper, and it's by Dario Amodei, and he's the CEO of Anthropic, an AI company.
Right.
Now, I know what you're thinking, another AI expert, another prediction about the future, but trust me on this one, this is different.
Yeah.
Amodei, he isn't just some, tech optimist who's like blindly enthusiastic about AI.
Right.
He gets the risks. I mean, he really understands the risks of AI,
Yeah.
probably as well as anyone.
Yeah.
But he's also painted this incredibly hopeful picture
Yeah.
of what the next, say, 5 to 10 years could look like if we navigate this whole new world in the right way.
Yeah.
So yeah, get ready, because in this deep dive, we're going to untack Amodei's vision of a future that is transformed by powerful AI, a future full of, well, let's say, machines of loving grace.
And what really makes this paper so interesting, so compelling, I think, is that Amodei, he doesn't shy away from the big questions,
Yeah.
the really complicated questions. He kind of tackles them head on. And he starts with this really interesting concept. He calls it the compressed 21st century.
Okay, compressed 21st century.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that. But what does it actually mean, like in practical terms?
So it's basically Amodei's way of describing the incredible potential that AI has to speed up progress, especially in fields like biology and medicine.
Okay.
He really believes that we're on the verge of seeing advancements that could totally reshape the world in a very short amount of time, just a few years. We're talking about changes that might have taken us, decades to achieve without AI.
So instead of waiting like decades for the next big medical breakthrough, AI could help us get there in, say, 5 years.
Exactly.
Okay, so give me an example. What kind of warp speed progress are we talking about here?
Okay, well, think about some of the amazing breakthroughs that we've seen recently, like with CRISPR and mRNA vaccines. CRISPR, that allows us to edit genes with a level of precision that, just a few years ago was unimaginable. And then you have mRNA vaccines. They have been just instrumental in our fight against COVID-19.
Huge.
Right. Huge. But here's the thing. These were game changers, right? But they took years, even decades of research and development to get here. And what Amodei is saying is that AI has the power to be this incredible force multiplier for scientific progress like this, to make it happen much, much faster.
Okay, I think I see where he's going with this compressed century idea.
Right.
So it's not just about AI, like, leading to a handful of breakthroughs here and there. It's about AI changing the entire pace of discovery.
Exactly. It changes everything.
But how? How does it actually do that?
Well, Amodei talks about AI taking on this role, almost like a virtual biologist.
A virtual biologist.
Yeah, think about it. It can rapidly go through huge amounts of data, way more than any human could. And not just that, it can actually design experiments and analyze the results, all at speeds we could never achieve on our own. It's like having a whole team of brilliant scientists working around the clock but without needing sleep or coffee breaks.
Okay, that's quite an image. So it's like AI takes all the tedious parts of research, the really time-consuming parts, and just like accelerates them, like puts them into fast forward.
Exactly.
But even with AI doing all of that, doesn't actual research, I mean, the real nitty-gritty of it, still take time? You can't speed up clinical trials or developing new medical devices overnight, right?
You're absolutely right. Amodei acknowledges that. Even with AI, some things just inherently take time.
Okay.
But here's the thing. He's arguing that the intelligence part of research, the part where you're trying to, connect the dots, identify the most promising avenues to explore, and make those really crucial leaps in understanding, that's what AI can supercharge. That's where this idea of returns to intelligence comes in.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that one. What are returns to intelligence, and what does that have to do with AI?
It's a really important idea in the paper, and it's actually pretty simple when you get down to it. Some tasks, like, say, basic arithmetic, right? They have what you call diminishing returns to intelligence. So it doesn't really matter if you're like a math whiz or just, getting by. You'll both arrive at the answer to 2 + 2 eventually.
Right.
But then there are tasks that require really deep insight, like, true scientific discovery. And those have increasing returns to intelligence.
Okay.
The smarter you are, the more connections you can make, the faster you can innovate, right?
Yeah.
And AI, in Amodei's view, it's like this massive leap in available intelligence, It's a whole new ball game.
So it's like giving someone a magnifying glass to find a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
But a much, much more powerful magnifying glass, and in this case, that's AI. It doesn't just make things a little faster. It completely changes how you even approach the search itself, right? It's about seeing those connections that might have stayed hidden otherwise.
Exactly. And the really fascinating part is that Amodei, he doesn't stop there. He takes this idea of rapid advancement, this compressed 21st century, and he applies it to understanding something even more complex, our own
Oh,
minds.
you mean like AI's potential impact on the world of neuroscience?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a topic I find really fascinating. It's like trying to hold a mirror up to our own intelligence and trying to figure out how it all works.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's like a mirror.
Yeah.
And, Amodei, he suggests that by studying AI, by really digging into how these systems that we've created actually work, we might be able to unlock some of the biggest mysteries of the human brain.
Okay, I have to admit that sounds a bit counterintuitive.
Right.
How can looking at something artificial teach us about something as complex and as, well, human as the brain?
Well, think of it this way. When you really break it down, both biological neurons and artificial neurons, they're both about processing information,
Yeah.
recognizing patterns, making predictions. Now, obviously, how they go about it is completely different, right?
Right.
Biological neurons, they're these electrochemical wonders, and artificial neurons are, well, lines of code. But the underlying principles, the fundamental algorithms of learning and computation, they might be surprisingly similar.
So you're saying that AI could be like this kind of Rosetta Stone for the human brain. By understanding how AI learns, we can start to get a better grasp on how our own brains learn and adapt.
Precisely. And it goes even further than that. Imagine the possibilities if we could use AI to actually model specific brain functions. Amodei suggests that we could potentially create personalized treatments for conditions like, depression or anxiety, even schizophrenia.
Hmm.
Treatments that are far more effective than anything we have today.
It's like we've been trying to understand this incredibly complex machine by, just kind of poking around in the dark, and suddenly AI comes along and gives us this incredibly detailed blueprint. Suddenly we can see all the connections, the functions. We can finally move beyond just treating symptoms and actually address the root causes of these conditions. That's huge.
It is huge. And Amodei doesn't stop there. He even explores the idea of using AI for cognitive enhancement. We're not just talking about treating what's broken, but actually improving our cognitive abilities beyond their natural limits.
Okay, now we're getting into some seriously futuristic territory.
Yeah.
What does he have in mind when he says cognitive enhancement? Are we talking brain implants or something straight out of science fiction?
Right.
Well, hold on a second before we all go rushing out to upgrade our brains.
Right.
Let's bring things back down to earth for a moment.
Yeah.
Because, there's another big, maybe even like the big question that Amodei tackles in this paper.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think is probably on a lot of our minds these days.
Yeah.
What happens to work, to jobs, in a world where, AI can potentially do so many things, maybe even everything, better than humans?
Right, right. That's the big one. It's that classic fear of automation, right? But it's kind of like turned up to 11 now with AI.
Yeah.
And to Amodei's credit, he doesn't try to sugarcoat it or anything.
Okay.
He's very upfront about the fact that, yeah, the economic landscape, it could look radically different in the future because of AI. But he also does something really interesting. He challenges us to rethink our assumptions about work itself.
Okay. I like that. How so?
So he argues that we, as as a society, we've gotten so used to tying our sense of purpose and our self-worth to our jobs, to being productive in a way that earns a paycheck.
That's true. We do. We define ourselves by what we do for a living a lot of the time.
Exactly. So Amodei, he's kind of suggesting that maybe AI could free us from that in a way.
Okay, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So then how does he see that playing out?
Well, he's saying, what if, instead of just worrying about being replaced by AI, we start thinking about what it would mean to find meaning and purpose in a world where work might not have to be the central focus of our lives?
Okay, yeah.
Think about it. We already do so many things with our time that have no economic value, right? Like hobbies, spending time with loved ones.
Right.
Those things bring us joy and fulfillment, but they're not, on the stock market.
Yeah, it's like that classic thought experiment. If you won the lottery tomorrow, right, and never had to work another day in your life, what would you do?
Exactly. You'd probably spend more time on your hobbies, with your family and friends, traveling, being creative, maybe even start that business you've always dreamed of, but, never had the time or the courage to actually pursue. Amodei's point is that all those things, those passions, that's what makes us human. And those aren't going to just disappear in an AI-driven world. If anything, we might actually find ourselves with more time and freedom to actually pursue those things.
Okay, I like that. That's a much more, let's say, optimistic way of looking at the future of work. But let's be real for a second.
Hmm.
Even if you are pursuing your passion for, I don't know, underwater basket weaving, bills still have to get paid, right? How does Amodei address the very real economic anxieties people have about AI, about it taking their jobs?
Yeah, he does. He offers a couple of different perspectives on that. So, in the short term, he believes that the principle of comparative advantage is going to be key.
Comparative advantage.
Yeah. Basically, it means that as long as AI is only better at certain parts of a job, humans are still going to be valuable for the things where we still have an edge. It's not going to be like a total takeover right away.
So it's not about us versus them, humans versus AI. It's more about us working together,
Mm.
like playing to each other's strengths.
Right, exactly. Like take a doctor, for example. AI might be able to, I don't know, analyze medical images with incredible accuracy, way better than a human could.
Sure.
But it can't replace the human elements of patient care, like empathy, building trust, and making those really nuanced judgment calls that doctors have to make all the time. In that scenario, AI just becomes another tool that makes the doctor even better at their job. And it frees them up to focus on the parts of their work that really require that human touch.
Okay, so that's kind of like the short term, the more immediate view. What about the long game? What happens when AI can just do pretty much every job better than a human can?
Yeah, well, that's where things get really interesting. That's when Amodei suggests that we might actually need entirely new economic models. Things that we haven't really tried before on a large scale, like universal basic income,
Okay.
where everyone just gets a guaranteed income no matter what.
Yeah.
Or we might see the rise of AI-driven economies, where wealth is generated in ways we can't even imagine right now.
Wow.
Yeah, and, you know, Amodei doesn't pretend to have all the answers here, but he stresses how important it is that we start having these conversations now, like while we still have time to actually shape the future before it's too late.
It's a call to action for sure. This whole deep dive, this paper, it's been quite the journey, really, from AI accelerating scientific discoveries to reshaping how we understand our own brains, even to, like you said, rethinking what work even means.
It has. And that's the amazing thing about these deep dives, isn't it?
Yeah.
We get to go way beyond those, surface level headlines and sound bites and really wrestle with some of the big questions about, well, the future we're creating with AI.
And Amadei's paper, it doesn't really give you any, easy answers, but it does leave you with a sense of hope, I think.
I think so, yeah.
This future that he describes, this world that's been reshaped by AI, it's not some dystopian nightmare, right? It's not some, robot takeover.
Right.
But it's not some perfect utopia either. It's this future that's still being written. And Amodei, he makes a really compelling argument that we all actually have a role to play in shaping it.
Yeah, and he ends the paper on this really powerful note. He talks about wanting to be there to witness the materialization of long-held ideals.
Mm.
And it really gets you thinking, what if we could actually use this incredibly powerful technology, not just to, make things faster or more efficient, but to actually solve some of the biggest problems humanity's ever faced? That's a future worth working towards, for sure.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think we'll leave you to ponder those possibilities. This has been a deep dive into the potential of AI to transform our world, for better or for worse. But as Amodei reminds us, the future isn't fixed. It's not set in stone. It's a future that, hopefully, we have the power to create.